track one session, we have first speaker as Siddhant. And welcome, Siddhant. We are really excited to have you on board. He's an SDET manager at Newfold Digital, formerly an Endurance Group, with a wealth of experience in driving innovations at the intersection of development and testing. He has consistently championed the evolution of quality engineering practices. And I believe whether you are a tester, developer, or enthusiast curious about the future of software testing and engineering, this talk will inspire you with the practical insights and visionary ideas of staying ahead in ever evolving world of agile. So over to you, Siddhant, for the session.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Parinita. In fact, yeah, thanks, Deepthi, as well. It was such an interesting panel discussion right before this. And I'm happy that was extended a little, solving all the questions. But yeah, I know there are a lot of questions, a lot of doubts in everyone's mind. So I'm just sharing my link over here. If anyone wants to discuss those out, feel free and I'll be happy to address those questions too. Yeah, let me just quickly share my screen so we can get started with the presentation. Yeah, I hope it's visible. If someone can confirm.
Yes, Siddhant. You can see.
Okay, great. So yeah, hello everyone. Welcome everybody. Good morning, good evening, from wherever you're joining in the globe. For today is Future Horizons, DevTestOps and GPT-4o, shaping the next generation of agile testing. I have a couple of questions for you all. What if your code didn't just follow instructions, but anticipated your needs? What if it could innovate alongside you? Doesn't that sound like magic or something like a sci-fi novel? But here's the thing. The future isn't far away. In fact, some of those concepts are already taking shape in the tools we use in our everyday life. Today, we are diving into one of those most exciting aspects of this evolution. So, ladies and gentlemen, visionaries of technology and tech enthusiasts of the future, welcome to a moment that promises to transform your perspective and ignite your curiosity. I am Siddhant Wadhwani, and I'm honored to be your guide through the uncharted territories of this topic. So, friends, brace yourselves before we dive into understanding the digital world of AI and how DevTestOps is contributing in this regard. Uh, yeah, sorry, stuck. Yeah. So now, before we dive into the session, just a quick introduction about myself. Well, as I mentioned, I'm Siddhant Wadhwani with nearly a decade of professional work experience. I'm working as an engineering manager, SDET at Newfold Digital. So yes, I'm at that leadership position and the SDET title, just as you heard before. I currently manage a team of 35 SDETs across multiple geographies and across several locations. So I have had the opportunity to speak at over 95 tech conferences across the globe, currently a browser stack champion and also the lead for the Mumbai chapter. Moreover, I'm also certified in several Microsoft Veracode ISTQB certifications, an active member of the testing community, as well as several other communities like WordPress and beyond, and have been a content writer, an open source contributor to WordPress, and also a recognized LinkedIn top voice badge. Well, with nearly 20,000 followers on LinkedIn, you can reach me at any point for any specific topic, and I'll be happy to address them. Um, yeah, moving on further quickly with the agenda for today. So I have some interesting topics that I would like to embark you all on this exciting journey. Starting with DevTestOps, the modern path to agility. So well here, we'll begin by exploring the captivating world of DevTestOps, an approach that's rewriting the rules of software development and testing. Here, we will discover how it ushers into a new era of speed, collaboration, and agility. Next, it's continuous integration and delivery. I'm sure most of you all have heard about this. Streamlining CI/CD processes with automation. Now, CI/CD, as most of you all know, is the heart of the DevTestOps model, or you can um, refer to it as continuous integration and delivery. So here I will stress upon learning the best practices, how we can reshape not only the development landscape, but also the testing landscape and enable rapid and reliable code delivery. Next, we look at certain best practices and real world examples as to how DevTestOps has proved beneficial. And with the advancements of AI, how we can embrace and experiment with it to go even further. Next, debugging and understanding the myths and misconceptions of DevTestOps. Most of you all may not know, but DevTestOps is a term that's been there for quite some time. And there were certain myths and misconceptions around this. So we will debunk those and understand a lot of the truths around this. I'm sure most of you all are also very excited to know more about how we can transform testing with GPT-4o, Gemini, and various other AI models. So yes, I will be touching upon that. And if time permits, we will also look at some live demos. Last but not the least, we will also look at potential use cases of generative AI in software testing and what's beyond. So the future roadmap, and I'll leave you all with some key takeaways. Now, before I just kickstart, I wanted you all to know that the tech world never stands still. And we'll discuss the exciting possibilities that await in the future of DevTestOps. So on that note, a quick quote by Aristotle: quality is not an act, it is a habit. And I'm sure you're getting a lot of takeaways from the previous panel discussion as well. So that continues. This quote continues to highlight the importance of making quality a habit rather than just an occasional activity. Because, like we just heard from the previous talk, it's not about having testers or SDETs. Why not testers and SDETs, as Ajay put it, right? So why not having a complete focus on quality, what your customer wants, what your business is expected to deliver, and just continue delivering on those lines. There are times when you'll have number of bugs that may skip through you, and you may encounter those on production. But is quality just your responsibility? It's not. It's team. So you and team work as closely as possible in order to make sure that you are giving the best quality to your customer. And that is what's being reiterated in every single session, in every single conference. So in the context of software development and DevOps, its emphasis remains on quality at every single step of the process, right from development, right since from you're receiving the first set of requirements all the way to deployment. And yes, of course, once your scripts are already on production, that's not the end. You need to keep monitoring to make sure things are steady, customers are not raising bugs, or complaints are not coming through from your social or support angles, and you're looking at that throughout. So yeah, on that note, again, most of you all know the software terminology starts with an idea, right? And that's what you can see at the core right now. It's an idea which finally formulates into a concept and eventually into a functional product. To ensure software quality, testing is essential throughout the entire process, whether it's the development or the testing lifecycle. But unfortunately, most people forget to test the idea in itself. By the time this has evolved into a concept and a fully functional product, the importance of the idea is completely lost. And people completely forget what was the original concept that was being built. So testing the idea is also critical for identifying information, refining it, and solidifying it. It could be in several formats that you could perform testing, whether it's unit, integration, and acceptance level. But these methods enable you to scrutinize different artifacts, identify any sort of shortcomings, and refactor them accordingly. Consequently, we can use these artifacts for all the activities that are being performed in your software development lifecycle, such as designing, planning, development, testing, and maintenance of the software. Furthermore, it is crucial to have a clear understanding of the software requirements and involve users in the testing process to ensure that the software aligns to the business goals and also to the customer's expectations. This can be achieved through code reviews, testing plans, and having a proper incident management and root cause analysis towards the end, which is essential to deliver a high quality software in an agile manner. And that's why it's not only DevTestOps and uh, generative AI that we'll be talking about, but it's how we can shape the next generation of agile testing. Because ultimately, it's quality software, which is the desired outcome. So let's understand the importance of testing in the DevTestOps world. Well, you all are familiar with the DevOps cycle, which is right on your screen right now. But where does a person really test? Is it on the planning stage? Is it right on the testing stage? Or is it right at the end? Once you have received the code and that's where you test and push things to production. I'm sure most of you all now are very familiar that testing needs to be performed at every single stage. It may be that you are not solely responsible for that, but you need to work closely with every single counterpart who is working on that project or that software. Whether it's people from your product management, support, sales, marketing, devs, leadership, why not? And to understand this, because testing is one of the most critical component of your entire DevOps workflow. And it plays a significant role in ensuring that the quality and reliability of your software that is being delivered is of utmost importance. Testing is integrated now into your software development and delivery process, and it needs to be performed at every single stage. And as we saw in the agenda, it circles around CI/CD, automation, continuous feedback from your customers, and evolving from there, making use of generative AI and beyond. But I think with this diagram, you all must be thinking, is it a lot of tests? So maybe what I feel the audience might be thinking is it tests everywhere? But as software professionals, we are familiar with the challenges when traditional testing struggles to meet the fast software releases. And that's where we had seen agile testing coming in. This is a practice that integrates testing throughout the life cycle to ensure high quality and efficiency. DevOps and Agile both aim for effective communication, a shorter feedback loop, and optimal feedback from your customers in order to make sure that you're providing the high quality. That mostly sits around the Agile principles, which we'll see shortly, because DevTestOps has its own manifesto, which we'll shortly see that. But to understand Agile testing a little more, it's a core part of Agile methodology, which ensures continuous testing throughout your development cycle. Again, most of you all know the importance of this, which is to catch issues early, improve the quality and speed to market, and also to go beyond that. So in a nutshell, Agile testing enhances quality in DevOps, supports fast and efficient software development, and that's what we'll discuss very soon. Talking about DevTestOps, how does testing fit into the overall workflow? Well, that's exactly where DevTestOps comes in, where the key focus is on continuous testing. Unlike the Agile Manifesto, which was coined back in 2018, the DevTestOps, as I mentioned, has its own manifesto. Here, the goal of DevTestOps is not to silo test from Dev and Ops, but simply to raise the visibility of testers and testing as integral parts of the DevOps quality culture. In simple terms, DevTestOps has a culture where software developers, testers, and operation engineers work together, as you can see on the diagram on the right-hand side, which adds value to the product, enhances the quality, and also helps in faster delivery. Moreover, DevTestOps ensures continuous feedback, and it's not only about application issues from testers to developers across all the stages, but even beyond what's happening outside the market. This reduces the business risk and the possibility of finding defects at later stages. It requires organizations to embrace all testing and not just test automation. So when we were talking about testers or SDETs, one size doesn't fit all. Like I saw several comments and several feedbacks. It's like whenever you are hiring for your specific team, you want to look at certain specific skill. You want broad knowledge. You want widened horizons. You want people who are passionate to learn and go beyond. And that's what evolves with DevTestOps and AI. So testing the things that matter strictly to the product and the customer should be your company's top priority, which is why DevTestOps is playing such a crucial role in today's organizations. This means you must be focusing also on shift left as well as shift right, which in theory means moving testing up earlier in the SDLC process, but also once your code changes are on production, continuously debugging logs, monitoring, and making sure that your customer is getting the best experience possible. The end goal continues to remain the continuous feedback that you're getting from the customers to your developers about the state of their code and how you can enhance it from there on. So let's understand the working of DevTestOps. How does it work? DevOps now emphasizes continuous testing to avoid generating faulty software quickly. This drives the rise of DevTestOps, which encourages collaboration among all development teams. To optimize a successful continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline, reduce expenses, time, and the risk by enabling gradual updates to production. As automation enhances the pipeline, it is important that you incorporate more quality checks in your CI/CD pipeline, that is having proper quality gates in place, which can be done on an incremental basis, but that helps you assert at every single point. Likewise, use test first approaches like TDD, BDD, acceptance test driven development to run automation scripts to test out the new features. And last but not the least, store and reuse your automation scripts for future. That will help reassure to your stakeholders that testing is thorough and adequate. But again, these are points that you can always read, analyze, and evolve from here. But you also need to understand the 4 types of testing that should be included for DevTestOps to work successfully. And that mostly circles around exploratory testing, which is mostly based on the tester's previous experience of having worked in a similar kind of application. It helps in identifying the loopholes in the application, which may have been missed while writing those testing scenarios. As most of you call it, testing using a manual approach or manual testing, as some call it. Even if an organization tries to do as much automation as possible, there will be cases that won't be automatable, or if it can, should it be automatable is the question. Third, ad hoc testing. It's an informal testing based approach, not based on a set of test cases, and many errors go undetected on following formal testing methods. That's where random testing helps at times. Last but not the least, automation testing, which helps save time and also shifts the tester's focus on important areas that the application, wherever you want to run regressions, rather than wasting the time to do certain things that are repetitive on a daily basis. So yeah, this is basically where the concentration should lie on. And talking about the DevTestOps manifesto, that goes even beyond this. So the 5 principal guidelines that are stated in the DevTestOps manifesto are: you must focus on continuous testing over testing right at the end. which we already discussed. Embracing all testing activities over only automated functional testing. That's where again the panel discussion came in, where is it only SDET, or is it testers, or is it everyone taking equal responsibility to deliver the best quality? Testing what gives value over testing everything. It is important for you to understand the business outcomes, the customers' expectations, and what are those high revenue generating flows, the top 25, the top 100 critical scenarios that are valuable, and test those as thoroughly as possible rather than just focusing on every single page, every single component, every single section. Testing across the team over testing in siloed testing departments. Now, this is a real scenario which I'll talk about in some of the best practices and taking a real world example of Netflix. I'm sure most of you all have heard. Lastly, product coverage over code coverage. Again, this is self-explanatory. Let's not focus more on code, but understand the product and increase the coverage thereon. So I didn't want to scare all of you all with this very high level architecture diagram, but most of you all are already familiar with this entire process of how a code is being developed, how we have several branches that the developers push their code onto, how it reaches to the testers in this case, whether it's software quality engineers, test automation engineers, or STETs, and how it goes on to production with several tools, technologies, and frameworks in place. So when we talk about code development, it's basically programming and coding which circles around people, processes, and tools. When we talk about continuous integration, it is about integrating the code to an integration server like Jenkins, for example, which provides feedback by running tests, scans, checks in place, like quality gates when you have set them up in your CI pipeline. And it may involve loop with code development. Because right at the bottom, if you see, you have quality gate in place where it's checking if the build status has passed or failed based on the criteria you defined. So if you say 80% of unit tests must pass, and only then you must proceed to deploying to a testing environment, and it has failed over there, the cycle repeats. But if it passes, you of course move on to the next step. So that's how continuous delivery, testing, and deployment come into picture, where continuous delivery is just is an extension to continuous integration, as I can put it, since it automatically deploys all the code changes to a staging environment and then on to production. This means that on top of automated testing, you have an automated release process, and you can deploy your application anytime just with a click of a button. And if you truly want to get the best benefits out of continuous delivery, you must deploy changes to production as early as possible to make sure that you release small batches that are easy to troubleshoot in case of a problem. Now, there is a saying that goes also that maybe you're pushing code out faster means it's like code fast, build dirty. But that's how agile testing also works. That's how the agile methodology works. Because the faster you deliver, the faster feedback you can get, and the faster you can improve from there. So understanding the role of CI/CD in DevTestOps, well, it's more around automating the test cycle, adding quality gates in place, automating the builds and deployment processes, automating the handoff between your stakeholders, whether it's development and test teams, or even the rest of the folks involved. Creating proper test environments and making sure you have automated environment provisioning. You can leverage cloud or virtual clusters for this regard. And also integrate automated testing capabilities, making sure that you have continuous integration and continuous testing in place. A key highlight over here is automation may be a good thing, but don't forget that it all began with Frankenstein. I'm sure you have seen that movie before, but just to put it in the right sense, automation is not a tool. It's a mindset change from who will do it to how will it get done. Also, just because you can automate doesn't imply that you should be automating it. In fact, automating the wrong things can trigger a ripple effect of damage. So with that, you have several strategies that you can try out, which is evolving or circling around continuous deployment, continuous integration, infrastructure as a code, continuous monitoring, continuous testing. And you have Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible, Chef, Puppet, Terraform, Datadog for monitoring. You have the ELT stack with Splunk, Grafana and Kibana dashboards, and several other tools that you can also leverage. If we talk about testing is everyone's responsibility, or maybe some may put it as quality is everyone's responsibility, go back to the roots of your test pyramid, understand where testing and quality plays the vital role. This is just a quick diagram which Mike Cohen and Martin Fowler had set up long back, and I'm sure most of you all know. So think about it. Have a proper testing center of excellence in place. This is really important for a lot of organizations. And if I had to just put this slide in front of the business, they would want numbers, right? So if I talk about numbers, organizations that have adopted to test center of excellence have reported 50 to 70% levels of automation improvements in their testing cycles, with an average of 30% reduction of defects and 2% of leakages. So these numbers speak volumes. It's important that you understand what a test center of excellence means. If you just go by the analogy, it's standardize, synergize, expand, and track. To put it in short, it's your asset, ASSET. So understand the importance of this. And if you look at the best practices, whether you call it DevTestOps, whether you call it DevSecOps or DevXOps, it doesn't really matter. Your core concepts should mainly revolve around automate as much of the testing process as possible, write secure code, automate as much of the delivery process as possible, where infrastructure as a code comes in, write test cases that cover all aspects of the code, test for vulnerabilities, manage infrastructure securely, use tools that are easy to use and integrate with, incorporate testing as early as possible, whereas make sure that you have shift right testing also in place. Monitor and analyze the performance of your software delivery and infrastructure pipelines, as well as respond quickly to security incidents. And with this, just a quick example of Netflix. You'll all know it's one of the widely used video streaming platforms with a lot of OTT content. And Netflix earlier operated in this kind of a siloed department, as you see on the left-hand side, where every single function, whether you call an architect, developer, estate, release engineer, system admin, or customer support, had a very specific function. And there they evolved into an operate what you build model, where you had a team of devs that owned every single thing, whether it was right from design, development, testing, operations, to maintenance and support. They were just given a set of tools and they were able to achieve everything right from the fundamentals of DevTestOps, whether it's continuous integration, delivery, feedback, having proper CI/CD in place, automation, and that's it. Well, Netflix is just one example. You have tons of other companies, top organizations that have gone even beyond, like Spotify and several others. Again, if we had to put strategies in place, you have number of things to talk about. There are different surveys by Gartner, by Accenture, that talk about 25% reduction in software defects that were encountered much earlier, 30% reduction in the number of security incidents, 50 to 60% improvement in the quality that was delivered to customers with automation and CI/CD in place. So that's how the market has evolved over time, and it continues to do so.
Thanks, Siddhant. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but we have a question on the chat. I think it was about what you were presenting. What mechanisms are in place to handle potential bias or inconsistencies in AI-generated test scenarios?
It's a very good question. In just a couple of slides, I'm headed to the AI section, so I'll address that right there. But yeah, amazing
So you
questions.
can go ahead. We are actually on time, but then just try and wrap it up quickly.
Definitely.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
So yeah, before I just jump into AI, the last part for understanding the concept of DevTestOps is to understand that there were certain myths and misconceptions, like 100% automation. Is that possible? Is that really needed? What are the challenges with coordination between team members, between stakeholders, or cross functions? And lastly, the cost benefit analysis. So when we talk about 100% automation, well, continuous testing requires 100% automation. But as we all know, 100% automation of an application is not feasible. Hence, some scripts are run manually in the process of continuous testing. Talking about the coordination difficulty, large organizations do not benefit from continuous testing as they have huge development and QA teams, which make coordination difficult. So continuous testing since its inception has been revolutionary for both testers and developers. Developers are moving closely, in fact, much more closer to customers to understand their scenarios. Probably they are looking at Datadog and looking at the ways customers are interacting with their platforms, and they are trying to rectify those into their code. While it is expected from testers to also get closer to developers and business analysts to take part in the SDLC process right from the early stages. Lastly, talking about the cost benefit analysis, I would say yes, to some extent, DevTestOps is expensive. But to understand and put it in the right place, it is a one-time investment. But once the team is equipped with functionality, the return on investment from this process is tremendous. And I can prove that because you have um, several pointers that can talk about it, whether it's better code quality as no commit goes untested. Developers receive immediate feedback about the product from the testers, which helps identify the root causes much earlier and fix the bugs right in time so that the customers get the best quality output. Since bugs are detected early, hence the cost of fixing them is also much lesser. And just one more point, almost no human mistake as most of the process is automated, whether it's test cases, whether it is the infrastructure or the CI/CD pipeline with proper quality gates in place. So I think we spoke a lot about DevTestOps, and I want to also talk about the revolution that's being done with AI in place with GPT-4o, Gemini, and AI experiments. Most of us know that the evolution of software testing started right from 1948, where the first software was made. And today's era is all about generative AI, right from last year, where, in fact, just at AT-AGTR 2023, I was present in person in Pune, talking about Notebook LM, talking about Gemini, and we have seen how it has evolved over the past year, right? There's been a lot of tremendous experiments that people are doing, that organizations are doing. Of course, there may be budget constraints, there may be other things in place, there may be biases, which we'll touch upon. But the more you experiment, that's what will lead you to some level of satisfaction, some level of accurate results, and you can also predict from there on. Of course, it is not going to do 100% of your task, but at least 10, 20, 30%, it will aid you to some extent, and you can pick from there on. So just to answer that in subtle terms, but yeah, I will again touch upon that briefly. So when we talk about ChatGPT, GPT-4o, GPT-o1, Bard, Gemini, Claude, AI, there are tons of AI models, which to use, when to use. It doesn't really matter. Start with one, experiment, see the use cases that you can leverage this in, whether it's shift left, shift right. You understand the breadth and depth of testing and what is expected for your customers. So where are those gaps? Where can you leverage AI? How can it support you in the SDLC process? Whether it's increasing the test coverage, whether it's faster test development, whether it's enhancing the accuracy, continuous testing, cost effectiveness, or simply an AI powered exploratory testing. There are several use cases. In my personal opinion, at least in the past 1.5 years, I have also explored a lot with generative AI. Of course, AI has been there for quite some time. We all have been using that in some way or the other. But if you see the smartphone industry, the electronics industry, a lot of them have now incorporated generative AI in their products. So why can't testers, why can't developers also do the same? No one stops you. You have access to a lot of free tools that you can yourself experiment with. You don't need to spend $20 to get a GPT-4 premium model. You can try out with a free model. It solves a lot of use cases, and some of those I can cover right here. So talking about the top 10 use cases, the first one being automated test case generation. Now, when the question came up about biases, yes, there are biases, and across these 10 use cases is what we'll talk about. There are benefits with generative AI that you can leverage, but there are challenges, and how you must tackle that, whether it's again prompting the AI model accurately so that you get the best desired result, or using your human mind, which has always been superior to artificial intelligence, hence the word artificial. So you need to think beyond that and evolve from there. Again, I'll be sharing these slides. I know with the limited amount of time, it's not possible to go over all these topics in depth, but it's important for you to understand that there are benefits to experimenting with AI, getting certain right solutions there, but there are challenges. Like, definitely you cannot trust it 100%. There have been deep fakes, hallucinations, biases, and there have been proven results. So automated test case generation is one. You have intelligent test data generation. I won't touch upon specific tools. There are several in the market. Some of them I have recommended. You can try out, explore, see what works best for you, and just go beyond from there. You have AI enhanced test scripting, automated bug detection, predictive test execution optimization. In the field of non-functional testing, you can also use AI-driven performance testing, automated test result analysis, AI in continuous integration, and some people really hate it, which is documentation. But in today's world, you have automated document generation as well. Last but not the least, you must be attending a lot of meetings, and you may be pissed at times that, okay, 70 to 80% of my day goes into just attending meetings. Well, use AI over there as well. AI can be used for real-time collaboration and communication. Get summary of meetings. Just go through those and see how you can evolve from them. So, Deepti, I will ask you if I have time for a live demo later, but I just wanted to touch upon the best practices and key takeaways, and then I'll come back.
We actually don't have time, but how long is this demo, Siddhant?
A couple of minutes, not more.
Okay, can quickly run through if it is. I mean, we've already eaten up the next speaker's time, but if it's a very interesting demo, if you can wrap it up in like a minute or two, please go ahead.
Absolutely. So I'll just quickly talk about 4 use cases. Again, I had that covered in the slides, but it's all about prompting in the right way. So you need to make your AI model. In this case, I've taken GPT-4o. It gives you 20 prompts. You just give it an example that, okay, you have an e-commerce website. What is the scenario you're trying to test around, whether it's a purchase flow, whether it's a payment gateway, or certain specific needs, and what is your expectation out of this model. So whether you want test cases in a tabular format covering positive, negative edge cases, you wanted to prioritize certain test cases, you want to understand what is automatable versus what shouldn't be automated, you can put all of that in that particular prompt, and it can generate the best results. And maybe the first answer, maybe the first response that it gives may not be 100% accurate, but the more you question it in the best possible way, um, will lead you to the best accurate result. So functional test cases is one example. Likewise, I had also talked about mobile app testing. I think the conversation is not loading, but You have mobile app testing where you can also give it a scenario like you want to load test. Okay, this is performance, but load test strategy for API endpoints of a social media application like LinkedIn. So you're giving it a reference point that, okay, think of LinkedIn, think of API endpoints. I want 10,000 concurrent users, and come up with a scenario that you can set up for your performance test. Maybe write a JMeter or Gatling script, or maybe compare it with if you can use those same scripts for a Geo Cinema video streaming app. Can you leverage the same script? If not, maybe make certain tweaks and rewrite the script so that it can handle similar situations. So these are different ways. Again, I'll share this slide with you all so you all can have more exposure to how you can leverage this. But talking about best practices, because a lot of you may have questions. AI is not reliable. AI might have biases, or AI is working, but many people say that, okay, Gen AI is not that great or shouldn't be trusted. I would say listen to yourself, experiment all by yourself, start small, focus on one or two use cases, and see where it leads you from there. Ensure that the data that is being used for training and testing these models is of high quality and representative of the real world scenarios. In today's time, most of the real world models are also up to date. So I think you should rely heavily on those. If not, set up your own model. It's not a rocket science, and feed in the data based on the recent information, and you should get accurate results. Use a test automation framework to incorporate these AI models into your testing process, develop a strong feedback loop, and last but not the least, monitor the performance and effectiveness of these models. A quick rundown now. So you have number of industry-wide AI tools. I won't talk about all of these. It's a quick screen capture, eye capture, look at them, experiment with them, and see how you can do wonders. What's next after DevTestOps and generative AI? You have serverless computing.
I am really sorry to interrupt, but
This is the last few slides.
okay.
Yeah. So what's next is low code, no code. People are experimenting with that. You have observability, chaos engineering, GitOps, and beyond. So I'll end this session with a takeaway from Steve Jobs. Technology is nothing. What's important is that you have faith in people, that they're basically good and smart. And if you give them tools, they can do wonderful things with them. So yeah, with that note, it's all the key takeaways that I leave you all with. You have mind-blowing tools available. Just that, don't sit at the edge of this branch. Leverage AI, embrace it, and just make yourself safer. Thank you again. Thanks to ATAGTR for this wonderful journey.
Thanks, Siddhant. Sorry, we didn't mean to interrupt you, but then just to be on the schedule, we'll have to do the small things. There are a couple of questions that you can answer in the chat.
Sure.
But yeah, over to Parinita.
Thank you, Deepti, and thank you, Siddhant, for a very wonderful session.